Welcome back to a new lesson, class 7 students. This is your lesson number 9, Rain in Summer, a poem written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. This poem was first published in the year 1866. And in this poem, the poet talks about what happens when rain falls on dry places. The poet talks about how he is overjoyed when rain falls on a hot, dusty summer day. And he also draws out some instances or scenes where this joy is also celebrated when rain falls. But before we go into every other line of the lesson, let us first understand the poet, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. So Henry was born on February 27, 1807 at Portland, Maine, and he was an American poet and educator. He was also a professor at Bowdoin College and also at Harvard College, but later he left teaching in order to concentrate in his work and in his writing. Some of his works include Paul Revere's Ride and the Song of Hiawatha and Evangeline. Henry died on March 24, 1882 at Cambridge, Massachusetts in the United States. Coming to our poem, this poem consists of 59 lines. It's pretty much a long poem, but nevertheless, it's not too difficult to understand. So we'll break it up line-wise. First, let us try and understand the first 9 lines of the poem. How beautiful is the rain after the dust and heat, in the broad and fiery street, in the narrow lane. How beautiful is the rain, how it clatters along the roofs, like the tramp of hoofs, how it gushes and struggles out from the throat of the overflowing spout. These are the first nine lines of the poem. And in this lines, the poet starts by exclaiming how beautiful the rain is as it falls on the hot, dusty, broad street and narrow lane. A narrow lane means the path between two rows of tall buildings. He further says that the sound the rain makes when it falls on the roofs of the houses is like the sound made by the hooves of horses. He then says that the rainwater is overflowing, how it gushes and struggles out here. Gushes means overflowing. So he says that the rainwater is overflowing out from the spout. Spout means pipes. Tui chu ahat dan chu na go hat dan chu pipe ho ako na zong hung phul no de du zeng wa tui chu. It's overflowing from the pipes or the tubes. In chu nga hu go hung tha pha ten lo kun that sort of rainwater catchment we make. Chilaya tui hung kai tha chu hung long tha zeng zung nge ti. Coming to the next lines, from lines 10 to 15. Across the window pane it pours and swift and wide with a muddy tide, like a river down the gutter roars the rain, the welcome rain. The poet continues to say that this rain is pouring across the window pane and quickly and widely. Swift means quick. So quickly and widely, the rainwater is flowing like a river down the gutters. Gutter means the drains, all sounding as if it's roaring. Again, it almost sounds like the rainwater is roaring. So all making a loud noise, and all these drains and the houses, the window pane, everything seems to welcome the rain. Everyone is happy that it finally rained. From lines 16 to 22, in these lines, the poet talks about a sick man. Now, this sick, ill man is watching at the rain from his room. Chamber means room. So he's watching the rain from his room, and he looks at the twisted brooks. Twisted brooks means stream, small narrow rivers. Twisted tile tui chu heart wal panas ki peile bangzeng na. That is what twisted brooks is. So he is watching the rain from his room and he's looking at the twisted brooks, and he can feel that the cool breath of the rain has calmed down his fevered brain. So this guy, this man who's looking out from his room is actually sick. He's not feeling well. Maybe he has a fever. So uh, when he looks at the rain, he feels that the breath of the rain is cooling down his fever, and he is now calm again. The sick man is now feeling better and thus blesses the rain, and he breathes a blessing on the rain. He blesses the rain. Lines 23 to 31. Now, in these lines, the poet talks about schoolboys who have just dispersed from the school nearby. He says that these boys sound different than how they usually do, with more than their wanted noise and commotion. So they are all running around in the rain, and these boys are sailing their paper boats in the wet streets, just until the treacherous pool means a dangerous water engulfs the boat in the spinning turbulent ocean. So whirling means spinning, and turbulent means violent. So the poet is saying that these boys are playing with their paper boats. No yung guong su patin lekon lekha ako boat na sim ziwa lampi dunga ako tui ki khol no ako naga akwai ziwa na kitole le sa ziu chona. And guong ha zu wal ki patin lekon na paper boat ho sezi chuna tui ho chun ahin kai chat wai zi ahin su se zi bang banga chu. He's saying that these boys are sailing their mimic fleets. Mimic fleets mean paper boats only until the violent, the dangerous water will engulf it, will suck them in its whirling, in its spinning, turbulent, in its violent ocean. In lines 32 to 37, the poet talks about another scene of the countryside. In the country, on every side, where far and wide, like a leopard's tawny and spotted hide, stretches the plain to the dry grass and the drier grain. How welcome is the rain? Here he's talking about the countryside. He says that every side in the country, far and wide, the land looks like a leopard. A leopard basically has a yellowish dark spots, and he says this because the grasses and grains in the plain is all dry and looks like yellow, and it looks yellow like a leopard spots, and they all welcome the rain. They are very happy to have the rain because the land was all dry. Gamgot le luten lo kun guhung zu le nu mo chuna chibang banga chu. These lands in the country also seem to welcome the rain. Here, lines 38 to 45. In the furrowed land, the toilsome and patient oxen stand, lifting the yoke encumbered head with their dilated nostrils spread. They silently inhale the clover scented gale and the vapors that rise from the well watered and smoking soil. For this rest in the furrow after toil, their large and lustrous eyes seem to thank the Lord more than man's spoken word. So, in these lines, the poet says that in the land which was plowed, the toilsome, meaning the hardworking and patient oxen, they're standing there lifting their heads, which were earlier burdened with the load of the yoke. Yoke is a wooden frame fastened over the neck. So these oxen, these cattle, had been working in that land and are all tired. They are tired, but they're still hardworking and patient. So when it rained in that part of the country, they've all stood there and their heads seem to be looking up. So the oxen have spread their nostrils wider. Dilated nostril spread means they have spread their nostrils wider and silently inhaling, taking in the air or the wind that brings the smell of clover scent. Clover scent is the scent that arises when the soil is watered by the rain and happens to fall on the clovers. Clovers are basically what these cattle feed on. So when the rain falls on that part of the land, they can feel, they can scent the smell of the clovers, and they are inhaling that smell. So these cattle in the next line, we will see that these cattle rest in the plowed land as rain falls after tiresome work, and their large, lustrous eyes look like they are thanking the Lord more than man can say. Mihimin, a pau thei, mi pau thei chona. Is that isay wanga patin? It's an kipathu isay wanga. At that moment, when these cattle open their eyes and look up into the sky, the way they seem to thank the Lord is more than what any man could say. Just saying here, pointing. Lines 50 to 59. Near at hand, from under the sheltering trees, the farmer sees his pastures and his fields of grain as they bend their tops to the numberless beating drops of the incessant rain. He counts it as no sin that he sees therein only his own thrift and gain. Lastly, the poet is talking about yet another scene, how a farmer just standing nearby under the tree sees his pastures and his fields of grain. Pastures means grassland, probably he needs them to feed his cattle, and fields of grain, that is his crop. Zo dinga ay lole ne dinga atu grain ho chuna. They have all bent their tops to the numberless beating drops of the continuous rain. Go to hazu walten kun ham pa ho me itu ho yong ko on leng lungzi vaya na. Just like that, he says that the poet says that the farmer is looking at his land, his fields of pastures and grains, and he can see that they have all bended their tops to the continuous beating of the rainfall. But he feels like this is not a sin. There is nothing wrong with this, because he knows that even all this is all a blessing for him and his crops, as they will only bring him thrift and gain. Thrift means prosperity. Agam so got valpana to hoizo lo vetaya na pastures hong like green ho song so if it rains chutile ki do do adiu ya na hung hing diu aga zong hoi ding chule ama dinga phachum de ya chia chu he knows and he understands that although his pastures and grains are taking the beating of the rain, it is not to be considered as a sin. There is nothing wrong with it, because he knows by the end of it, it is only going to be for his own profit, for his own prosperity, and his own gain. That is your chapter, the poem Rain in Summer by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. For your home assignment, give the meanings of the following words. First is narrow lane. Second is brooks. Third is fevered brain. Fourth is treacherous. Five is furrow. And in second exercise is to give the answers of the following questions. First is, what does a sick man feel on seeing the rain? What do the school boys do in the wet streets? Third is, what was the state of the fields in the country before it rained? Fourth is, what are the cattle thanking the Lord for? And fifth, why does the farmer not count it as a sin when his pastures bend their tops due to the hard and continuous fall of the rain? These are your assignments. Please write it down in your notebooks and submit it in time. Thank you.